Okay, so we just had a move out of one of our units. This was a holdover tenant from that was placed by the former owner. Now, whether they're foreclosure auctions that are occupied with tenants or they're properties that we're buying that are occupied with tenants, ideally, I'd rather buy things vacant. And honestly, you're gonna see why in this one right here, because you don't know what you're gonna get. When you place a tenant, you know the quality and the back history because you've vetted them and you've gone through a great screening process, and you don't know how the former owners did it, whether they be, once again, foreclosure or from just regular MLS. But let's go check this one out. We walk into the kitchen and clearly they have not been treating us well. We've been trying to work with these people to get them to move on for some time. I mean, the cabinets need to be completely replaced. So we're gonna go in back here with white shaker cabinets, new granite countertops, probably a tile backsplash or at least a 4-inch granite backsplash, new sinks, update the light fixtures. We're gonna go in with typically with LVP flooring. What the heck? I don't want to know. You never know with like these situations when you're buying a property, foreclosure auction or not, what you're gonna get. What I really recommend is you actually buy the properties vacant as much as possible. If they're holdover tenants, unless I would probably still, if you're buying a property that's occupied, sorry, the lighting in here sucks, is I would try to screen them at the existing tenancy. So you can possibly, if you're buying it on the MLS, ask to have them go through and vet this tenants while you're working on putting it under due diligence. And so that is, I would screen them, have them fill out your application, do all this kind of stuff. And now seller might not want that because they might be crappy tenants anyway. But if you can, I would definitely recommend doing that because you don't want stuff like this. This is crazy. This is not just a turnover. This is a full rehab on this unit here. If you're buying a foreclosure auction, that's what the big risk that you're going to be taking when you're buying these is that, if their tenants are in the units, not the former owners, but they're tenants, you never know what could, be the condition that they're in. There could be lead issues that you don't know that need to be, worked on. If you haven't checked, any database that might be in your state, but there could be lead hazards, although that wasn't handled. You could just have, just bad payment histories, which, I mean, if they didn't pay the mortgage and they're getting foreclosed on, there's a good chance that, the tenants they had weren't paying as well. And now you've got basically a situation where you got to evict them anyway. Why are there Ron McDonald shoes? So yeah, if you're working on that, I would screen them. If not, if you can get them vacant, that is always the better case. We love our vacant units. When we're buying property, I try to, look for stuff that is ideally vacant. So right now I'm looking at, there's some 3 two-family houses that are new construction, which is all I'm excited about. But also they are completely vacant. I told the owner, don't place anyone, please. I want this vacant. I want to place them. And the reason why is because we're going to go through our screening process. And what does that look like? So one of the things we're first looking at, and I know a lot of people, give a lot of slack about this, is we're first looking at their history of, if they have any evictions on their record. So we're going to go through the court database. I don't know if every state has them, but our state luckily has a really good court database where we can kind of look up if they have any evictions on their record. Now, if they're older evictions, we are willing to look past that, especially if they have asked them for a letter explaining what happened in that situation. And then we also talk to that landlord typically and try to get a landlord verification form from them saying that everything was cleared, they did the right thing, all that kind of stuff. If not, then we will weigh that pretty aggressively because we don't want to walk through the same situation that they did. Next thing is we're looking at credit score. And ideally, yes, we'd like to see a 680 credit score. Now, I would say that is weighed less than, say, their actual eviction record. But, still, it is something very important because if they're not paying their bills, and we also look at what's on their credit score. What are the things that they're not paying and what's the chances of them not paying us and having, once again, to do an eviction. So the whole process of screening is to look at your situation that you have with the tenants and assume that at some point, unfortunately, you might have to evict them. So the idea is to limit that for them and you as much as possible by going through a good process of screening. So the next thing that we're looking to do is 3 times the rent. Ideally, we'd like, if the rent's $1,000, we want 3 times a month's rent. And I know it seems like a lot, but it's very similar to what a mortgage company or a bank will do when you're looking to qualify for a loan. And the reason why is because you have other expenses. You're going to have, utilities often. You're going to, and now if we're including utilities, we'll adjust that. But if it's just the base rent, they're going to have gas, electric. If it's a single family home, possibly water and sewer. But if it's a multifamily, we cover that. They are going to have also their normal food costs and stuff like that, which we all know are going up. And so this gives them room to basically, from what our experience is, to afford the rent and not have to worry about things. They still have like room to actually have a little bit of cushion, so that if something else comes up, their car breaks down or something like that, they have plenty of room to cover these things by making sure it's 3 times a month's rent. Whereas if we just said half the month's rent, which maybe would be great for a lot of people given the the increase in rents, that I think would be very tight, because now they got, so if it is $1,000 a month rent, so they're only got $2,000 in income, so they got $1,000 they're paying to us, then they've got maybe an electric bill of $100, then they've got a gas bill of maybe $60, and then they've got a grocery bill of, say, $500 for the month. That's really, really, really tight. And they might have other expenses. Maybe they're got a cable bill, which a lot of people do. So that's another $100. And then they got maybe Netflix, another $20, whatever Netflix currently is something like that. And so we put a lot of weight on 3 times a month rent, as well as the eviction history. Then of course we're getting landlord references. That's the next thing, is landlord reference. That's number 4, landlord reference. And it's not the most immediate tenant landlord. So we're not looking for the current landlord, which we'll get as well. But we found not everyone is honest, because some landlords just want to get rid of a bad tenant like this. Well, I'd rather be, in our take, would rather be an honest landlord, because we're hoping that reciprocal, but not every landlord is that way. So therefore we look for the existing, but also the last 2 landlord references, and then and so that we can have a clearer picture of this person's personality and history with renting apartments. Last, but not necessarily least, and we do have some other criteria here and there that we do, but for the most part then we're also looking for a work reference, so that they have a job, that they've kept the job down well, that the boss speaks well of them. So these are really good things that we've found, these 5 things for looking at apartments, so you don't have this situation, so that when and that's why I really recommend, if you can, if you're looking to buy a property that is occupied, you can get some, basically do your own screening, maybe have them fill out your general application. Now if they're in a lease, it's not saying all of a sudden you can change that, but at least maybe you can have a better picture of what their process was, or ask the current landlord that's selling the property to provide you with, as part of your due diligence, their screening process and what documents they got from the existing tenants, because that's something I don't see a lot of landlords or would-be landlords that are buying property get from us. I know that when I'm selling a property, no one's asked me that. I have the documents, but no one's asked me to provide that, for instance. But that would be something that I've definitely asked for in some of the properties we bought. Now, once again, if you're going to a foreclosure auction, it's kind of a mystery box. You're not going to be able to do that kind of situation. That's why I'd recommend really avoiding, possibly occupied tenant situations with foreclosure auctions, just if you don't have the experience. Now, if you're experienced, landlord, then great, go for it. You can possibly get a great deal at an auction, but otherwise, stay away. Now, obviously, you see, we got our work handed to us on this one. We're going to go through. This is going to get a whole full paint, probably all new baseboard, new carpet, LVP. We're ripping out all the carpet, LVP. We're going to upgrade the bathroom a little bit. Luckily, the tub looks to be in good, but probably a new vanity, new kitchen cabinets, granite. So new light fixtures. I think the doors intact. Most of the doors actually look like there's no holes in the doors. I haven't checked all of them. There's a closet right here. It's all drawn over, but there are actually no holes in it, so that's great. So it's not complete, trash, but it's pretty trash. I'd like to know what you guys thought. How bad is this apartment compared to other apartments you've seen? And what your thoughts are on the different things I said about our criteria that we do. Appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. Join our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you hit the like button and hit you subscribe if you want to come out and see more videos that we're coming out with every week. Thanks so much. Have a good one.